I met Andrew Tate, which was in one of the first few months of moving to Dubai.
How was that
And
convo with Andrew Tate?
a lot of people think that because I'm working for myself, I can do whatever on earth I want. If you're a freelancer with 10 clients, you actually have 10 bosses. I'm putting in so much effort. Why am I not making 5 lakhs a month, 10 lakhs a month? Oh, if she's talking about making 10 lakhs a month, she's a scammer. You should get on sales calls to get rejected.
Hi everyone, I'm Ishan Sharma and this is going to be an in-depth video about content writing and becoming a highly paid freelancer. Today with me, I have Shreya. I met her in Dubai, but we are finally doing a podcast together in Mumbai. How are you, Shreya, today?
I'm great, Ishan. How are you?
I am doing well as well. Shreya has been someone who I have been following for the last 2 to 3 years. She used to make over 200k USD in her second year of college itself. And this video is going to be her entire journey, the lessons you can learn from her. And along with that, we'll also talk about how can you become a highly paid freelancer and move to Dubai as well.
Sure.
Okay, let's get started. If that sounds interesting, hit the like button. And my first question to you, Shreya, is about content writing. And why is it relevant in a day and age of ChatGPT and multiple AI tools? And with so many people getting into this field as a freelancer, why is it important and how much can people make with content writing in 2024? And then we'll take it ahead.
Sure. So I think content writing still remains a very important skill to learn, a very lucrative skill. And the best thing that's happened in 2024 is that content writing has started fitting into all these other aspects of freelancing that you can think about. So obviously, to start with, like, what is content writing? It's basically any content that you see online has had some form of writing involved at some stage, right? So even if you look at like scripts for you, you have some sort of writing involved where you plan your scripts, you plan questions for podcasts. We plan like how to write content for our clients, how to write content for my social media. So all these things, like written content, is involved everywhere. And the reason why it's booming now is because everyone needs content. Everyone wants to be online, whether they're working a full-time job, whether they're a student, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're an influencer, a content creator, or they're just getting into entrepreneurship. They're already an established entrepreneur and they now want to gain visibility online. Everyone's getting into it for some or the other reason. So keeping this in mind, content writing has scope, like I said, in any field that you can think of: video, graphic, design, creative, anything you can think of, writing is involved. Now, why will people still pick that in 2024 when AI is around? It's because just because there is a way to do things easier doesn't mean that people still want to do it themselves. Now, take, for example, our clients, right? We work with entrepreneurs, we work with founders who are running multi-million-dollar agencies. They don't have time to sit and write their own content when they're working on something, I wouldn't say more important, but something that's more of a priority for them right now. Maybe they have the time to share their information, their knowledge, their experience, but not the time to put it down and edit the video or to write the caption or to put it out as a LinkedIn post. That's why they will hire you. They don't even have time. Like, this is important to understand, that they don't even have time to go to ChatGPT and be like, da-da-da-da and da-da-da and keep sitting there for like 30 minutes and try to get a good result from AI, which is not going to happen anyway. So if you're a writer or you want to get into writing and you feel like AI is going to replace you, I would say go to ChatGPT, just try to make it write a post for you. And you will see how it basically cannot do that for you unless you train it extensively. And even then, it cannot give you like a ready to post result. So your value is still there as long as, of course, you have the right skills, and you shouldn't be afraid of AI. It's something you can use. You can use it as a first draft for research, for some sort of ideas, for some sort of concepts to identify trends, but it's not going to replace you. So you don't have to worry about that.
Interesting. We'll come to the training part as well later on in this video. But let's think of someone who just has a laptop and an internet connection and they want to make money with content writing. They've just heard you talk about why it is the thing to learn in 2024. So how can they get started? We'll cover that through multiple questions. My first question to you is how to get better at writing? Because I feel like for me, it has been a journey of writing a ton of LinkedIn posts. Even when I record videos, before recording, I think about what should the hook be like. I was just discussing what do we talk about in the starting. So it has just been through that rinse and repeat process that I've gotten better to write content. But what do you suggest someone for writing better? How do they get better at writing?
So getting better at anything is obviously about practice. But the thing about writing content is that there are already so many people doing it. So in my opinion, writing content for like social media is one of the easiest form of writings you can ever do. Why? Because first of all, like a million people are doing it. So you have enough, what do you say, data to pull out and say, okay, this pattern of post is performing really good. This thing is not working. And this thing is difficult to try. This thing is super low effort. I can test it instantly. So you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to build a new wheel. You don't need to even think about, oh, where do I find the wheel? The wheel is like right in front of you. So if you can just kind of study the patterns, study the trends, try to find, okay, what are the 10 things that these top 10 creators are doing that are similar? Now narrow it down to, okay, what are the 3 things that are actually working out for them? And you just kind of replicate that. So yes, it's about practice, but I think even before that, if you know which kind of content you want to create, like if you want to go in for LinkedIn copywriting, if you want to go in for writing content for like YouTube scripts, it's about studying the trends and just going with what is popular right now, what's working right now, and don't try to reinvent the wheel there. That'll help.
How did Shreya learn to write content better?
Oh, I've always been good at writing. Always. Because since I was 6, 7 years old, I started writing. The way I wrote was completely different. And also, I think the way content writing works has changed a lot in the last 5 years. So when I started 5 years ago, storytelling was all the craze and nobody was doing that on LinkedIn. So I came in and I started sharing stories on LinkedIn, and I started doing that for our clients as well. And everyone was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that on LinkedIn. Because everyone at that time was talking about, I'm looking for a job, or I completed this certification course. That was mostly the content that you would see on LinkedIn. It was a job search platform, not a content creation platform. So as soon as I started like bringing in the stories, I would write about like my university experiences. Then I saw more students doing that. And then eventually it became a thing where storytelling was more popular in this Indian space of creators and founders and entrepreneurs. So I think how I got started was using this skill I had for telling good stories. And I just brought it on this professional platform like LinkedIn. Everyone was surprised and everyone was like, okay, this is interesting. I want to do this. I want to do this for myself. They hired me. And now, of course, we've moved on to like content being more of listicles, content being more of infographics based, content being more of like, okay, here are the how-tos and to-dos and don'ts and do's and all of those kinds of things. So I think obviously the content style has changed, but that's how I started. And I think that's a good way to start, where you leverage a skill that you already have and you bring that twist to what is out there. So whatever I said like about your trending thing, right? Use that, but try to add your own twist with the skills you already have. Make it yours.
What is the sign of a great content writer? Of course, you've talked about storytelling, that is one. But when do they know that ye banda acha likhta hai? What is that sign?
When you're writing content for someone else, it's different. Because obviously you want to get their voice, their tone. Like if I'm writing content for you, I cannot write it the way I write for myself because it's going on your LinkedIn. It has to look like you've written it. And this is what we call ghostwriting. Because when I'm writing content for you, I'm not writing that Shreya Pattar wrote this. I'm not saying that. It's only Ishan Sharma's profile and my content, my words are going there, but it's your message. It's something you own. I'm a ghost. So I become a ghostwriter for you in that sense, right? And this is by the way, one of the most popular forms of content writing that's coming up now, right? So when you're becoming like a ghostwriter, then it's different, because then the category is, okay, how good are you at getting my voice, my tone, my message, my purpose, my influence, at nailing that authenticity that nobody, like if somebody sees your post, they should feel like Ishan wrote it. That's the mark of a good content writer in that case. But when you talk about like, in terms of work, I think there are so many different aspects. And that's usually, okay, what makes you a good freelancer? Because how good are you at taking feedback? How good are you at listening? How good are you at asking the right questions? When you want to create content for someone else, you have to know what to ask them. If you don't ask them the right questions, you will have poor quality content because you don't know what to post for them. You don't have a good strategy. So how good of a strategist are you? How good are you at asking questions, at communicating with your client? How good are you at understanding their audience, their pain points, their goals? What do they want from the content? Some people want to build a personal brand. Some people want more impressions. Some people want lead generation. Some people want more interviews and podcasts. So are you able to provide that kind of outcome that you told your client that, okay, this is what we're going to do. So I think the way that we categorize a good content writer changes based on the purpose, I could say, or who you're writing for. But being a good freelancer is part of being a good content writer.
Makes sense. You talked about ghostwriting, right? Tell me more about this. How can someone get into this field? Like, there's one thing which is writing ebooks, which you've done as well. But then there's another part of content writing, which is ghostwriting. Tell me more about this field.
Okay, so ghostwriting is, like I said, when you're writing for someone else and you're a ghost. So nobody knows that you've written that content for someone else. Maybe if you go back like 5-10 years, the most popular form of ghostwriting was only news articles or articles, sorry, not even news articles, but articles that you would see in magazines by founders and CEOs and entrepreneurs of big companies. They're not the ones writing the articles, but of course, it's their name that comes in the article. So they have ghostwriters, someone who writes it for them, and they don't get credit. The writer does not get credit. That's a ghostwriter. Ghostwriters have, since the beginning of time, been involved in writing speeches for kings, writing speeches for your politicians. Nobody writes their own stuff. If there is any PR involved, nobody is writing their own stuff. They have an entire team of ghostwriters who are giving them the exact message to put out. Like all these posts that you see on social media from celebrities talking about certain like natural disasters or certain political stuff, it's all ghostwriters. Nobody is doing that because it's influenced by, it influences their entire PR, right? So this is ghostwriting. Basically, a message that's coming from the original creator, but your name is not involved in that. That's it. And the reason it works is, like I said, nowadays life is so public. And if you think of it from this point of view that everyone's busy, they don't have time to write their own content, but they do have interesting stories to tell. They're building big things. They want to share experiences, ideas, lessons, learnings. They want to sell products, sell information. And so they will hire people who can help them do that. That's a ghostwriter.
Fascinating. Going back to that step-by-step guide that we were talking about, right? So once someone has learned how to write better content, they understood what a good content writer looks like. Next step is to build their portfolio, right? So how did you build your portfolio, and what mistakes you see people making? And what are some more additional tips you would have for people who want to build a great portfolio that showcases their skill sets as a ghostwriter or a content writer in general?
So the thing that worked best for me was just creating content on LinkedIn. Because people were able to see that I can write good content, that most of my posts are getting way above average engagement. People liked reading it. They were remembering my stories. And that's why they said, Shreya, whatever you're doing, can you just do the same thing for me? So that's how I got my clients, and my LinkedIn profile and the content I shared online became my portfolio. And back then for 2 years, I didn't have any other social media that I was using for work. So I was only on LinkedIn, and only my LinkedIn content was enough as a portfolio. Obviously, once we started growing, once we formed an agency, once, we started increasing our prices, we had higher things at stake, basically. We started building a portfolio, putting together our client results, client outcomes, etc. And then we built that. I think if you're a beginner, the best thing you can do is create a mock portfolio. So even if you don't have clients yet, you pretend that someone is your client. Like right now, anyone who's watching this can basically pretend that I'm their client and that Ishan is their client. So write 3 LinkedIn posts for me and write 3 LinkedIn posts for Ishan.
From this podcast?
From this podcast. Just pick something we said and just post it. Post it on LinkedIn. Maybe you can literally say, I wrote a post for Shreya and tag me, and then write the post. Or I wrote a post for Ishan, tag him, or tag both of us. And this way you're just kind of showcasing your work, but this can obviously go inside a Google document and be your mock portfolio. And you tell the client or the lead that you're speaking to that this is a mock portfolio, but this is to give you an example of what I can create for you. And then you get this client on either for free in exchange for a testimonial or case study by the end of your month or 3-month contract, or you can charge them a minimal fee because you're getting started. So that's the thing. But the mistake I see a lot of writers making in their portfolio is that when I ask for a portfolio for, let's say, LinkedIn ghostwriting, and I say I'm looking for LinkedIn ghostwriters, they send me portfolios of like Instagram copy or Twitter copy. But that's not the same thing. So your portfolio should always be specific to what you're creating.
Contextualized.
Yes, contextualized, relevant. One is, of course, to have it in the same form of writing. The other thing you can do is have it in the similar industry. So if you're reaching out to like creators like us, then we don't want to see posts you've written for like some chairman of some company, because that's a different tone, different writing entirely. We want to see what you've created for creators. So yeah, make your portfolio relevant and make it something that gives a great indication that you're good at what you do, and that you're able to do what this client is looking for.
Do you think that putting all of your work that you've done so far on a portfolio makes sense, or like what should be the volume of work that you should showcase in a portfolio?
Absolutely not. Don't put in everything. It's like, sometimes you go to this restaurant and they have like a book for a menu and you can't decide. It's so difficult to decide what to get or what to look at. And you would just rather go to a place which has maybe 2 pages, or I'm like that at least, where I have like 2 or 3 pages and I can pick out of 5 or 6 options, not like a whole booklet. And it's the same thing. When you send a full portfolio, it actually shows you're lazy. It shows that you just put in anything and everything you've done. You didn't even care to like filter out stuff. You are not caring even at this portfolio stage to make life easier for this lead that you're speaking to. You should tell them that these are my top 2 case studies that are relevant to you. These are my top 3 examples. And you can have a look. Let me know if you need anything else. Let me know if you have any questions. I can send you more information. Don't overwhelm people and push them away initially.
Makes sense. Let's talk about making an offer. And I think people and I personally have learned a lot about offer from Alex Hormozi, who's been out there. But what does a great offer as a ghostwriter or content writer look like? And how do you learn to charge? Like, how much should people charge for their service of writing content? Should it be per hour? Should it be project? Should it be per word basis? What should be that like?
Okay, so an offer is basically what we for the longest time used to call a package or a service package. That's an offer. So exactly what are the deliverables that you're putting together? What are you going to provide to your client on a monthly basis, for example? What is the outcome that they can expect? If you can have some sort of guarantee, that would be good, like some sort of thing that you're promising them out of it. It's not necessary. And I think especially in the ghostwriting field, it becomes very dicey because you're not a part of like their sales process, for example. You can bring them inbound leads, but eventually you are not in control of how many calls they book just because their sales page or their landing page is not strong enough. So all these things are out of your control. And I think the way that guarantees work for content writers is completely different. If you're a copywriter, you're doing direct sales, then you can talk about like revenue increases,
what is
percentage.
the difference? Content writing, copywriting?
So copywriting is the kind of writing that's meant to sell. So I think fundamentally everything's become copywriting now in some way because you're always trying to sell something. But copywriting, I would put like your long form sales pages, your email marketing, that would come under copywriting, where you have more control over the revenue, where you're making direct money for your clients. Then you can say, okay, we will aim to increase your click rate from like 10% to 45%. We will aim to increase your sign up rate for this program, for this $150 program, from the existing like 3% conversion rate to like a 7% conversion rate. So these are some things that you can tell. But I think in ghostwriting, it becomes a bit dicey as to what you can promise. So I think ghostwriting can be more focused on the deliverables. And you can probably have like a revenue share if you like, where if you're making a certain amount of money for them, etc., then you can charge an additional percentage. So those are some ways to structure your offer. Your offer should also include your terms and conditions. So exactly how do you work with the client, and of course your pricing. That's your offer. So what do you do for them exactly in terms of deliverables? What is the outcome that they can expect, and also how much are you charging for it? That's your offer. Now, how do you price your services? I think it really depends on the overall value add that you're able to offer, right? Because some people, like for example, in our agency, most of our clients spend less than 2 hours a month with us confirming their content, and that's it. So if you're spending only 2 hours, we are in a position to charge more because first of all, we are working with high level entrepreneurs who have a lot at stake. So if a content goes out, it's going out to like hundreds of thousands of followers. So the importance or the impact of the content is much larger. And because of that, of course, the stakes are higher. So we are able to charge more. We also save our clients a lot of time because we have like a monthly call and that's pretty much it, along with some content reviews. Some of our clients don't even review the content anymore because we have that in place. So again, when we save time, we are able to do that. So what is the value you're adding? Not necessarily only in terms of revenue, but time saved, involvement, that is not required from their end, etc. So there are a lot of different things that you can consider. Save time, save money, make money. These are usually the 3 top things that you can do. So when you price, I can just give you a benchmark that most people, like for ghostwriting or content writing, you should charge on a monthly basis or on a project basis. If you're writing website copy, for example, it's a one-off thing. It'll probably take you 6 weeks to 12 weeks. You can do a project fee of, let's say, $5,000. But when you have like content that you're doing for social media, that's on a monthly basis, 15 to 20 posts, or maybe one post every single day, whatever platform you pick. The range in India, like for Indian freelancers that I'm seeing, if they're really good, is anywhere between $500 to $1,800 per month. That's the range that they're working in. And this is especially if you're working as a freelancer, not in your, I'm not talking about any other form of writing. So freelancing, that's the kind of base level you have. I think 300 to 500 is something that beginners can charge. You should be good at what you do, of course.
So you're saying about 1,000 rupees per post if they're doing like 30 posts or something around that number.
You could say that, yeah. Yeah.
Understood. What was your first offer like? Like when you got your first client, how did that happen? And how much did you charge?
So my first offer was not an offer. And for the longest time, I didn't have an offer. Because for 2 years, I was a freelancer. I had a couple of writers here and there sometimes, but I was mostly working by myself. And at that time, I was obsessed with just working. That's it. I was obsessed with writing. And I was saying yes to any project that came my way. So I've written for like the weirdest, most fun niches that you can think of that I wouldn't write for anymore. I've also written different types of content that I don't write anymore. So the first thing I had written was a 400-word article. My client proposed the fee. So he said, I'll pay you $75
Kaise
for
milega
it.
ye client?
LinkedIn. So my first post on LinkedIn went viral. It had 1.5 million views. And this was about meeting the CEO of LinkedIn. So this person who reached out to me, this client, he had a blog and he wanted me to share that story with his young readers, basically. So he asked me to write an article about that. And I didn't have to think of anything because he wrote me a really nice, straightforward message that, Shreya, this is what I'm looking for. I really liked your story. This is the word length I'm going for. I will pay you $75. I will pay you via PayPal as soon as you submit the article. Does that work for you? And this was just one straightforward message. And I said, yes, let's do it. And I was really surprised, but I think that really set the benchmark for me because 75 back then was actually really highly paid for a 400-word article because it's like 6,000 rupees or something back then. And I was in my first year of uni and I had just found out, very interestingly, that most people, even after 6, 7, 8 years of experience as a writer, were working at like 10 paisa per word or 20 paisa per word. They were still working on a per word basis. And for this post, I got paid something like 18, 20 rupees per word.
What is the problem with charging per word?
Think of content writing in general now. Who cares how many words your social media post has? The impact is not by the number of words. Some of my LinkedIn posts that generated the best results have like only 20 words in them. How will a tweet writer charge then? Like if you think about that. But also, why would you rely on how many words are being written? Because if you're editing, for example, this happened to me because I didn't like start off knowing everything. So I wrote once on a per word basis and I was getting paid, I think, around 5 rupees per word. I was really happy. I was like, okay, 5 is really good because people are fighting over like 20, 25 paisa. I was like, okay, this is an achievement. And I remember this was for website copy. And I wrote that copy and the client said, this is good, but I need some edits. So I edited it. And then this happened like 2 more times. And by the end of it, I had actually written like 5,000 words, but I was only going to get paid for the final 1,000 words on paper. How many hours I had spent was not considered. How much time I had put in did not matter. The fact that the content performed well on his website didn't matter. It's all based on number of words. And you're not a writer if you're selling words. You're not selling words. You're selling the impact that your words create, that your words put together create. And I'll tell you the most ridiculous thing because nobody asked me this, but one freelancer told me that their client is asking, why are you charging me for the propositions, basically? Like, why are you charging me for the articles and the propositions? Why are you charging me for the words that are the, in? They're not words. So I said, okay, do one thing. Delete all those words from the document and send it. So you deal with such ridiculous things. If you do things like charge by the word, why do that? And you don't know, like if you are charging 5 rupees, they said, okay, 1,000 words. You ended up, let's say, at 1,200. And they're like, no, but I thought it would be 1,000. So either cut it down or I'm only paying you 5K. I'm not paying you more than that. And if it goes a bit lesser, then you're not even getting paid the full 5K. So your revenue, your income is very dicey. So don't do that. Don't charge by the word, by the hour, by the, like all these small nitty gritty things. Charge as a flat fee. And then the best thing is you can charge in advance. Then you can invoice them before you get started.
100%?
And say, 100% is what we do. We also do 100% for 3 months in advance. We do 100% for 6 months in advance. The longest we've done is 6 months. So people pay us upfront for the whole 6-month period. And that's an option, of course, or they can pay on a monthly basis.
As a beginner who's getting their first client.
Yeah, as a beginner, you're getting your first client, I highly recommend at least 50%, right? At least 50%. Then you are also more confident that, okay, I can do well right now.
You just mentioned about getting a testimonial in return for working for free. Is that what you would recommend for getting your first client?
Yes. I would say do this for 3 clients. That's the best. And ideally do it for someone who already has some sort of presence online, someone that people know. Like again, for example, if someone did that for you and they said, I worked with Ishan Sharma who has certain number of million followers, then the impact that a testimonial from you has is much higher than from someone who's unknown right now. So I would say if you're working for free initially, you can work with anyone. That's not a problem. But try your best to get someone who has a good name and you can leverage that.
Right. You just mentioned that you got paid $75 for your first client.
Yeah.
Right. Who are these people?
Who are these people?
So for people to understand,
yeah,
who should they target? We talk about, how to learn the right skill, but who is the right client to be working with?
There's no right client for everyone, right? Of course, like it depends on what you do, what service you offer, who you want to work with. It could be based off of their position, their role, their job. It could be based off of what they want to do next. Like for example, if you're looking at helping someone who's a beginner try to get to their first 10K followers on LinkedIn, then the target audience for you is completely different from someone who's like, okay, I'm at a level where I can help creators go from 100K to 1 million on LinkedIn, right? So it totally depends on what you want to do, who you want to work with. And I think you shouldn't worry too much about your niche when you're starting out. Like just experiment, work with so many people, and then you will realize that out of these 10 people you worked with, there was something similar about the 3 people that you really liked working with. Maybe where they were from, maybe the way they spoke, maybe the way they conducted their business, maybe the niche that they work in, the industry, their team size, their age, maybe it's their age, maybe it's the kind of work they do, the kind of clients they have, all of these different things, right? So it's up to you to decide, but experiment a bit. Like don't be too closed off on the niche.
What are your thoughts on working with Indian clients versus abroad, US or the foreign clients in general?
Again, totally up to you. It depends on who your target audience is. And if you're one of those people who want to complain that a certain person from a certain country is not paying well, then that means that they don't fit your target audience and you should find someone else. And when I say find someone else, like you cannot say, I mean, of course, the most common thing, and I'll say it just as it is that people are complaining Indian clients don't pay well, don't pay enough. And of course, there's a difference in terms of how much the pay parity is between the Indian rupee and the US dollar or the euro. So of course, it's obvious that until a certain level that, like a certain level of career that a person is in, their pay potential, like their paying capacity is different. If you don't want to work at that pay scale, basically don't pitch to such people. Don't talk to them. Don't get on sales calls with them. Do outreach for the target audience that fits your requirements. And that's it. And if you're saying that, no, I'm only getting this type of lead, these are the only kinds of people who are messaging me, then something's wrong, of course, about your messaging. Something's wrong about the people you're engaging with. And your whole lead gen system is wrong because you're trying to rely mostly on your inbound leads. What are you doing to reach out to people on, let's say, an international level or at a certain level where they can afford to pay you a certain amount, right? So what are you doing about it?
Right.
Yeah.
You talked about lead gen. Let's go into that. Like, how do you get clients? So both inbound and outbound, what should be a framework that a beginner who has some portfolio of like made up things that they've made,
Yeah.
they have learned how to do it, but now they want to get experience and get clients. So then what would be a framework that you would recommend for them to get both inbound and outbound depending on the customer that they've created, like the ICP that they have?
Right. So if you're doing inbound lead generation, then it's mostly through your content, right? So it could be through your content on like Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, any other communities that you're a part of, etc. So inbound means people are reaching out to you because they saw something that interested them. With inbound, it's so important to be disciplined about your goal. Because look, when it comes to social media, it's very easy to get trapped into or to get distracted by what's trending, what's fun to do, what's more chill and laid back, or what's something like, if you, for example, on X, Twitter, whenever I post about certain topics, it performs much better. I basically get a viral tweet out of it.
Which are those
As
topics?
I think a lot about like a mindset, a lot about relationships. These kinds of tweets perform really differently compared to if I'm talking about, okay, how do you make 5K a month? How do you start freelancing? They also sometimes do well, but not so much. And X for me is like, it's out of the picture of lead generation. I don't use that for lead gen. So I use it in the other ways. But I kind of drifted along into it. So I think that is very important, that if you've decided that one platform is for lead gen, my LinkedIn is for lead gen. I don't even talk about freelancing there. Like I don't even push my ebooks too much. I don't talk about how much money I'm making. Like it doesn't matter because that's not my target audience on LinkedIn. Instagram is where I teach. So Instagram is where I will talk about my ebooks, my courses. I will talk about how to start freelancing. I will talk about what we are talking about. LinkedIn is my lead gen source. So I will not mess with it. I will talk about what my clients want to hear. And I think the best way to use your inbound lead generation source is to handle objections. Don't tell people what to do, but rather tell people like whatever objection you think you're going to face in the sales call, just kind of tackle that in your content. So once you're on the call, the odds are these people will not really request for your portfolio. They can see all your work. Any questions that they have, they've already been solved because they saw it in your post. And you're already a bit deeper into your sales process. Like you're already a step ahead. I think that's the best way to use your content. Handle objections. I'm talking about like the service-based industry, right? Handle objections and put forth your solution as a solution that your reader needs to try, basically. That's selling. That's a good way of selling. Also remember that social media is top of the funnel. I think a lot of people say, I'm creating BOFU content, MOFU content, and TOFU content.
What is that?
So BOFU is bottom of funnel, which is your direct sales stuff. MOFU is called the middle of funnel, and TOFU is top of funnel. So top of funnel is where you're raising awareness. MOFU is like your nurturing phase. And BOFU is like, okay, they're ready to buy. They're in that stage. They want to make a decision, right? So a lot of people say, oh, I'm trying to do BOFU. I'm trying to do all three on a platform like LinkedIn. But the truth is LinkedIn is still a social media platform. So it's TOFU. Like it's always going to be TOFU, you know, it's going to be top of the funnel. So you want to make sure that you're using it like that. Every time a new person sees it, they should learn something about you, what you do, and you should kind of tackle their objection. When it comes to outbound, your inbound efforts make a lot of impact, because let's say you're doing outbound through LinkedIn, then the first thing a person will check is your profile. And when they see your content, when they see that you've already answered the objections, when they see your case studies, your testimonials, they're like, okay, I will book a call with this person. So that is why your content has to be on point, because if you're distracted, if you're talking about, oh, I made $10,000 as a freelancer, your client doesn't care. Your client is like, oh, she's talking or he's talking about money that they're basically going to get from me. You know what I mean? So that's not helpful. So be like, you know, focused in terms of your inbound. Outbound, personalize your messages. Send a one-liner case study of what you've done for a previous client or what you would like to do for them, and ask them to, like, are you interested? Like, are you available to speak next week for a quick 15-minute call? Just ask them, are you available this Thursday? Are you available on Friday? Just make it very simple for them to say yes or no, and just reduce that whole elaborate conversation. So personalize your outreach and leverage your content creation for your outreach efforts.
So for outreach, you talked about DMing people on social.
Mhm.
so that they'll check your LinkedIn and other platforms. But how does email work? How effective is email in your experience for getting clients?
Cold emailing is very effective.
And what is the right way to do it?
I think it's very challenging to say what's the right way to do it as a freelancer, because cold emailing is not easy. And the thing I've done for cold emailing is I've always worked with someone on it. I've tested it a little bit myself. I know how the basics work, but I've not tried to be like, okay, I'm the one who's all in on this. So if you are doing cold emailing, there are a lot of important things. First is you need all your domains. You can't cold email from your Gmail accounts. The second thing you need is you need to warm up all your domains and their emails. So when we say warm up, it means that as soon as you buy a new email, your messages, your emails are going to end up in that other person's spam, because Google knows and their inbox knows that this is a new email ID. So
There's
it's
no history.
not been used yet. So you want to warm it up, which means use it. And there are a lot of tools that you can use to kind of do that on automation. And then you want to start sending out your emails, which is, this period is like a 3 to 4 week process in itself. And when you're sending out your emails, they have to have certain things, right? They have to be personalized. You have to set up your automations in terms of follow-ups, because of course, if you're reaching out to 1,000 people every single day, then you want to follow up with them. You want to keep nudging them a little bit that, hey, by the way, did you check out this case study or this testimonial, or just wanted to follow up, check in, etc. And you need to be actively involved in responding to your emails. If somebody is emailing you back, booking a call, asking questions, you have to sit and respond to all of them. And the most important thing is, some people will also abuse because they're so annoyed by receiving all these cold emails. So don't be disheartened, basically.
Has it happened with you?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of times, like, people just would reply with like, stop, I don't know why you're sending this to me. I didn't sign up for it, but it's business. So there's nothing wrong with it. And of course, when someone says, don't send this to me again, just take them off your list. That's it. Like, don't bother them. But don't be disheartened when someone says something. It's just, you don't know them, they don't know you. It doesn't matter. But like I said like 1,000 emails a day. That's like the bare minimum, in fact. So when you're sending thousands of emails every day, I think, and if you learn this as a skill in itself, you're much better off probably offering this as a email marketing or cold emailing, basically, agency.
For agencies and other companies.
Because it's intense. And maybe
1,000 emails a day.
Yeah, I mean,
how does that work?
That's the thing, right? I mean, it's all your processes, it's all your different DMs, it's all your different automations. And I know that as one person, I don't want to do this. I could hypothetically learn, but I don't want to do this. So I always go in for working with someone else on, okay, can you help me out with this? Because I'm not going to do this myself. And of course, when you're a freelancer, you can start with smaller volumes. And the reason I said cold DMing is because it's something that tends to work better when you're a beginner. Your prices are a bit lower. Your portfolio is still something in the making. Your content creation will support you, because when you're reaching out on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, they will check your content. So that'll support you. You don't have a presence. Like when you're cold emailing, the first thing that person is going to do is Google you. And if they can't find you, then it becomes, okay, I don't know this person at all. They don't even have a website. They have nothing. They don't have a presence. So I would suggest that when you're a beginner, also you want to test your offers, etc., cold emailing is not going to be cheap, because like I said, the domain warm-ups, etc., that could be anywhere between like $500 to $2,000 a month, only in terms of the tools you're using. I'm not even talking about hiring someone.
What are those tools?
Some of them are like, you want to scrape the emails, of course, from different platforms. So there's, I don't really remember the names. Like I said, I don't use them myself, but there's Clean List, I believe, and there's Lemlist, and there's, I'll probably have to check. There are a few that you can basically do your email warming up with. That's a monthly fee. The domains you buy, of course, for the year, buying the domains is like $10, $15.
Right.
But every email you buy is around $7, $8, $10, depending on where you're based. And you can't send out 1,000 emails from one email ID. It has to be like maybe 100, maybe 50 or so. So 50 into like average, let's say 8, it's still $400 a month. So all of your costs really add on. It's not, if you're a beginner, like you said, laptop and Wi-Fi, this is increased capital basically that you have to put in. Again, I'm not discouraging anyone from cold emailing. I think I just got into it pretty late, but that's because other things worked for me.
Right.
So that's it. Yeah.
Interesting. So once someone signs up for your call, What happens then? They come on the call
Yeah.
and now you have to sell. Walk me through that process. What is your process for selling yourself and your services?
So the first thing we do is we have a discovery call. So we are not trying to sell, we're trying to discover. Are we someone who can help you? And is the problem that you have something that we can actually solve? So if I'm on a call with you, Ishan, the first discovery call, I'm just going to ask you, okay, why are you speaking to me today? And as much as possible, I will go in detail with that. Okay, let's say you're looking for LinkedIn services. Okay, why do you want to be on LinkedIn? Okay, like, is it out of FOMO? You'd be surprised how many people want to be on LinkedIn because they have a FOMO because all their colleagues or whoever are active on LinkedIn.
And is that a good reason?
I don't think so, because then your commitment is not into that long term. Then you work with us for like a month maybe. And in my experience, FOMO is not a strong reason. It's just temporary, right? Your long-term vision is super important. So if you tell me like, Shreya, I'm already a content creator. I have so and so audience on YouTube and on Instagram. Now I want to move to LinkedIn. I want to build a presence. I already have the content out there. I don't have time. So I'm like, okay, so you don't have time. You want to be on LinkedIn. And what is your aim with being on LinkedIn? And then we talk about that. We understand exactly what kind of content you want to create, who you want to speak to. Are you trying to sell something on there, either now or some point down the line? What is that service going to look like? How much will you charge, etc.? So asking you a lot of questions, including why haven't you found anyone yet? Okay, why didn't you hire anyone before, right? So this gives me an idea of maybe like, have you been looking for someone for a long time, didn't find the right fit, or is this a new idea you're like kind of toying around with, unsure, etc. So the first call is a discovery call. Depending on your interest and how keen you are, maybe this is also the call where it turns into a sales call.
And would this be the recommended thing for anyone who's starting out as well?
Yes, when you're starting out, I would say try to break it down into 2 calls where you have a discovery call and a sales call. I think my view on this has changed a lot, because earlier I used to do only 1 call, 1 sales call. That's it. It would be 30 minutes and I have my fixed questions that I'm asking. I'm getting those responses. And then if we are the right fit, I'm making the pitch. And I'm kind of trying to get them to make a decision on the call. And it worked sometimes. Sometimes it didn't work. And I think if I would have been a bit more laid back with some conversations, I would have actually had them as clients. So also, once your deal size increases, of course, your sales process will become longer because they need more time to make a decision when they're investing a larger sum of money. So I would recommend having like a 15 to 20 minute discovery call. Give yourself a break, calm down, and then book a call for like, let's say 2 days later, where you have time to think about, okay, how much will I pitch to this client? What will I offer them? How much will I charge? What are the payment plans? Based on my discussion, what are the possible questions they can ask me? You have time to prepare. You have that gap, especially if you're someone who's underconfident or overwhelmed or unsure of what to say. So you can do it that way. Book a call while you're on this first call. So let's say we finished our discovery call. I will say, okay, Ishan, I think we can help you out with this. How about we speak on Wednesday? Does 6 p.m. work for you? And I will send you an invite right now. And let's book that time and I will show you exactly what we can do for you. So I'm not leaving you. I'm not saying, okay, I will get back to you with a time. Let's see when we speak. No, I'm booking a time on your calendar and people are more likely to show up once that's there. So every time you're booking a follow-up call, just make sure you pencil yourself into that person's calendar. This is a great hack I've learned and it's working out really well for me because the ghosting goes down. Even though you're not adding pressure, you're not saying like, you're not trying to avoid ghosting by, oh, give me a decision now, but you're avoiding ghosting by just easing them into the next step and not being pushy. That helps. And the final thing, if you want, you can do is have a decision call. So a decision call is when, okay, the second call we had, I pitched everything and you're like, okay, I just need 2 days to think about it. All right, Ishan, how about we speak on Monday, 2 p.m.? Does that work for you? Yes. Okay. So 10-minute decision call. That's it. Book it in their calendar. Now, final thing you ask them is, do you have any questions about the proposal or the last conversation? Yes or no? Okay. And so how would you like to proceed? No, Shreya, I don't want to start right now. Okay, all right. Thank you for your time. Okay, go ahead. Thank you for your time. Let's get started. So ease people in. I think it really helps. It's a new thing I've learned and it really helps.
How do you deal with all the no's when you do the call? It can be disheartening to people,
Yeah,
especially when they're just getting started, when they are doing these calls and people are like, no, I cannot pay this much, or I don't want to
Yeah.
work right now. So how do you deal with that?
See, I think rejection is obviously a part of life, and this is the most annoying thing you can hear, because when you get rejected, you're hurt. Of course, you feel bad, etc. But the thing is, when you think about lead generation, there's always going to be more calls that you book. So
Mm.
this is not the last call. This is not like, to compare it, it's not like a one job opportunity that you lost. It's not that way. It's something that, okay, you'll find another client. And even this client, if they say no now for whatever reason, you can find, maybe you can circle back to them like a year down the line, and you can talk to them and see if they would want to work with you then. But overall, first of all, rejection is a part of life, and it's so important. Actually, I always say this about sales calls: you should get on sales calls to get rejected. Like, you should book as many sales calls as possible. And I did that when I was practicing my sales calls. I knew that this person was unqualified. I would still get on a sales call to hear a no, because I wanted to get used to hearing a no. I wanted to get used to just being calm whether I get a yes or a no. And this is also important. Even when you get a yes, don't get too enthusiastic. Don't get too excited, because then you become a bit impulsive. Then you make mistakes. And I've done that because I got so excited with something. I made a mistake in some proposal, some contract, something I said. Too enthusiastic, too much energy that time. So it's important whether you get a yes or a no, just be neutral, you know? Yeah.
Very interesting. How do you get better at sales? Does dating make you a better salesman?
No, I don't know. I don't think so, because sales is selling. That's it. Like, sales is, I think you have to realize that ultimately people buy when when they trust you, and when they are really looking for help and they think you can help them out. That's pretty much it. So when you understand the basic sales, like what makes someone say yes, it's trust and the solution. And if you're able to do that, then that's it. You don't need to be pushy. You don't need to sweat over it. You don't need to worry that, okay, if somebody rejected me, it means I just don't know what I'm doing. That's not true. It's, like I said, a part of life. And nothing makes you good at something except just repeating that something, you know? And I also use this example of like Virat Kohli. Like, if he is able to be one of the greatest batsmen because he practices batting, not because he's in the gym kind of swinging his arms. That's not going to help. You have to be on the field and you have to do exactly that thing 1,000,000 times to become good at it. So nothing is going to help you become good at sales except getting on sales calls, getting rejected, and just being like, okay, now I know what I need to do better, and now I feel okay doing it.
Makes sense. Are there any other mistakes that you see people making as a freelancer in this entire framework that we just talked about?
Yeah, I think one is being entitled. A lot of people think that because I'm working for myself, I can do whatever on earth I want, work as per my own timing, work as per, like, in the middle of the night, respond whenever I want. It's like, just because you're, self-employed, you're not answerable to anyone. That's not true. And this is also a misconception that you're a freelancer, so you have no boss. I always say that if you're a freelancer with 10 clients, you actually have 10 bosses. Not in the sense that they can control what you do, but you are accountable to them. You're responsible for their work. You're accountable to answer to them. So I think this entitlement thing is a big problem. And this is also from the financial point of view. Because people think that I'm putting in so much effort. Why am I not making 5 lakhs a month, 10 lakhs a month? Oh, if she's talking about making 10 lakhs a month, she's a scammer. That's what people think, because they stop believing in themselves, or they feel entitled that nobody else can have it, only I can, or I should, I deserve it. So I think if you leave your entitlement behind, and if you see this as something you're doing, not something you're trying to get to, but something you're just doing month on month and you're building, then you will find more success than if you pressurize yourself into how do I make 5 lakhs per month.
One thing that I've been noticing is that there are people who get into freelancing, be it content writing or design or editing, and they work really hard and they end up in this range of making, in India, about 30 to 50,000 per month. And then there are people who are making 5 to 10 lakhs a month as well as a freelancer. What does this person need to do to get there? How do you get into that league of revenue that can open up opportunities for you?
First thing is, how big is your offer? Because if you're charging like 10,000 rupees per client, you would have to work with like 100 clients to be able to make a decent amount of money. Decent, let's say. But if you're charging 1 lakh per client, then you work with 10 clients and you're at 10 lakhs per month. Again, you're not going to be able to do this by yourself. So the next step is, okay, work with one person, add one, not even like a team, but work as a partnership or outsource something to one person, then 2 people, then 3 people. So one of the things that requires you to go to, like, you require to go to the next level is expanding your services and expanding your team. And expanding your services, by the way, I mean like the value of it. You don't necessarily need to start doing 10 different things to be able to charge 1 lakh per month. Because, like, for example, when I started out, the same service that I was charging around like $200 per month for, we now charge somewhere around $1,800 to $2,500 per month. Fundamentally, it's the same thing, but we do it for a different audience. We do it in a different way. We have a different value proposition. That's why the positioning changes, right? And Indian freelancers are actually some of the most talented, most skilled freelancers out there, right? So they are some of the best at getting the job done. And if they can understand how good they are, and if they can understand that, okay, this has a lot of value and they can position it right, then they can charge more. So the first thing is your offer, and of course, a good team. That's the second thing. Third thing is your communication. If you want to especially work with clients, like let's say internationally, you need clean communication in English, writing, speaking, reading, comprehension.
How to get better at communication?
If you struggle with accents, for example, and you have, let's say, a client from Australia and you struggle with that, I would say watch Australian YouTubers or listen to Australian podcasters with the subtitles on. And this way you're just kind of training yourself into that voice. Same goes with movies. Just like, because I remember when I was younger, I could not understand these American accents in movies. And now, of course, it's natural because most of the YouTubers and creators we see are Americans, right? So now it's pretty much inbuilt. So I think exposing yourself to that sound really helps. And the second thing is just, in terms of you working on it, like practice, like literally practice saying certain phrases, certain things out loud that you would use in your sales call, that you would use when you are responding to a client, and templatize things as much as possible. Because when a client asks a certain question, it's likely that 3 other people will ask something similar. So you can create a sort of an SOP is what we call it, right? So a standard of procedures. So you create an SOP where you have, okay, if this question, then say this. If this question, then say this. So you can practice even through that way as a copy-paste message with some tweaks.
That's PR.
Maybe that's PR. Yeah, but I think this can also really help when you have a standard.
Yeah. You were mentioning that if you charge 1 lakh per month, you'll need 10 clients. Just, I think 3-4 days ago, me and my co-founder were talking about how can we hit $1 million in our agency in the next 1 year. And it was all a process of reverse tracking that you were talking about. So we realized that we need 15 clients who pay us $6,000 a month, and then we'll reach there, or we will need to sell a $100 product, low ticket, to 800 people every month. And so that helped us get clarity on what we need to do to get where we want to go. So I think that's the exercise that everyone needs to do to understand how can they get there. How would you think about AI into helping a freelancer, and how has it helped you?
Yeah. No, AI, I think, is a great way to save a lot of your time and energy. So even for my team, each person, like depending on the kind of work they're doing, I have given them guidelines. Like I've shown them how they could use AI to shorten certain steps and processes of their work. So when you're doing like research, or when you're trying to get a certain CTA, or when you're trying to come up with like hook ideas, how do you just use AI to do that? So that's one way. And I use it a lot now for coming up with my course ideas, for coming up with my structures. I just do a lot of brain dump first on like a Google Doc. I will just write everything down and I will put it in ChatGPT and I'll ask, okay, what do you think is missing here? Or what do you think is too much? Or what can I remove? What can I replace? Or what is lacking? What is more important if my audience has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 common features? So it's just a good way of like bouncing off ideas without having to do it with someone and explain too much, like copy paste it on ChatGPT. So that's how I'm making the most of it right now.
So you live in Dubai.
Yeah.
as a freelancer? Why is Dubai the place to live as a freelancer?
Okay, I'm not a freelancer. I run a business
Mhm.
and I don't do the client work anymore. So I think there's a difference, of
Right.
course, when you're a freelancer versus managing a team.
Mm.
And I mean, I don't think that every freelancer should move to Dubai or anything.
Mm.
The thing I like about Dubai is the exposure that it gives you to people. I have met so many people that I never thought I would meet in my life, right? People that I really look up to, people that I've been following on social media. And I was like, why would this person even say yes? If I message them, if I reach out to them, why would they say yes to meet me? And it's all because Dubai is the kind of place where I like to say that everyone visits at least at some point, even if they're just for transit while going somewhere else. So I've met Ankur Nagpal recently. He was the founder of Teachable, had a multi-million dollar exit. I met Zubi. He's a really good speaker and he's an author as well, a musician. I met Andrew Tate, which was in one of the first few months of moving to Dubai.
How was that
And
convo with Andrew Tate?
it was amazing. It was a really great conversation.
How did you
And
meet him?
because of Instagram.
Mhm.
And we just met for like a breakfast. And it was really interesting because I told him a lot about my business and I had recently moved to Dubai. So I was telling him what my plans are and everything. And for quite a few months, he actually messaged me and followed up saying, like, how is this going? What's the update? And I was confused because when you're at that level, when you know so many people and you're so busy, how can you remember a conversation you had with this one person about their small business that they're, and whatever they said? So I think, and this is something I really like about all these people I've met, they've been super attentive. They have remembered our conversations. I've met them multiple times again. And yeah, it's interesting that I think it also like gives you that sort of, oh, everyone's human, like no matter what they're doing, everyone's human. Everyone likes conversations. Everyone's interested in knowing more about you. And a lot of my friends as well, like one of my friends, Megha, she is from Canada. I never thought like she would move to Dubai, but she did. And now like she's here as well. And a lot of my clients are also based in Dubai.
What did you
So
like about
yeah.
Andrew Tate, the human?
Oh wow, you're just trying to get content for Instagram Reels now. I know.
I'm just curious.
I mean, I don't know what you want me to say exactly because I think, shit, I know all the comments are going to be, oh, she's such a pick me. But okay, no, he was really nice. And I think the thing I like most is how interested he was in just knowing about me, right? So he was asking so many
Curiosity.
questions. Yes. And you would expect that when someone is at that level, they would really like to talk about themselves. And I had a lot of questions, of course, and I had been following him on his Twitter for quite a long time. But we talked about like his cars, we talked about traveling, about seeing different countries, about like literally being in a different country every other week, about how he deals with this fame. About my business, I asked him for advice on that. I asked him, okay, what would you do? Or like, this is what I'm doing. I don't know if it's right. I don't know if it's enough. And he was just listening. And like I said, he was attentive. And he followed up with me and I was like, okay, how are these people thinking, still thinking about this one person that they spoke to and they remember and they care enough to follow up, right? So that was really nice. And I also saw his Bugatti watch, which has the engine in it. That was super cool. So yeah, there's your Instagram reel content. Please keep this part because people need to know why we recorded this.
No, but tell me, how do you become a person that when you meet someone, they remember you later on? I meet so many people.
Yeah.
And there are very few people that I remember that, okay,
Yeah.
ये बंदे से मिलके ये बहुत चीज़ सीखने को मिली या फिर इससे मिलके मजा आ गया. So how do you become that person?
Wow. How do I say this without being like, okay, the simplest thing really is that people are very fascinated that I'm an Indian girl who lives in Dubai, who has done what she's done, and who has that sort of exposure, that confidence, that speech, and all of that conviction and that substance and everything. People are really surprised by that.
How rare
And
is
it
that?
captures it. What do you mean?
Like this whole like this whole series of things happening, an Indian girl in Dubai making a living, doing what she loves, and all of this.
How real is that?
How rare is that?
How rare is? Yeah, it is
Yeah.
super rare. Yes, it is rare. And I think I think when I moved to Dubai and I started posting about certain things, a lot of people ask me, I don't know if we can say this or whatever. Like, do you sell drugs? because that's the only thing people expect you to be able to do. And of course, people are very biased against Dubai. They have certain notions about it. They just can't, just because they haven't been there, haven't seen the life, they think like they just have certain notions about it. So Dubai like kind of proceeds with its reputation in that sense. People are really wrong about most of these things. They're
What
really
is Dubai
wrong.
from your eyes?
Dubai is, I think, for me, it's the best place that I could have chosen to live. It has helped me a lot. I think, I mean, it's true for any city, of course. The more opportunities you make out of it, the better it will do for you. Like I'm from Mumbai. We're shooting this in Mumbai right now, and I'm here after 6 months, and I didn't really have any plans or anything. So I put out a tweet saying that I would really love to do podcasts. I have like 5 booked for this week, more which are being set up right now. So Mumbai has a lot of opportunities for me as well. And I have booked a few meetings, booked a few like podcasts just because I said, hey, this is what I want to do. So I think opportunities are available anywhere that you make the most of it. But for me, I think Dubai was really the next level that I really wanted to get to. I lived by myself for quite a few years because I studied abroad as well. And so I've been by myself. I prefer living by myself. And I think, like I said, Dubai is where I met so many people that I would not have expected to meet. I've made really good friends. And although Dubai is a very like transient city, a lot of people don't live there. I feel like I'm the only one who lives there. You know, most people are traveling in and out all the time.
Most people own villas in Palm Jumeirah and they come back.
Yeah, of course. And the thing is, nobody acts differently, you know? Nobody acts differently or like they won't meet you or they won't talk to you. I distinctly remember messaging Zubi on Twitter.
Who is Zubi?
Zubi has like 1 million followers on Twitter. He started out as a rapper, but now he's a speaker. He's a very controversial Twitter writer, let's say it that way. And he's also the champion for the heaviest like women's deadlift or something. And the reason it's a whole inside joke, of course, because the women's deadlift thing. But okay, but he went super popular because of that. He's been on many talk shows, etc. So he was someone super interesting that I wanted to meet. And he said, I'm in Dubai. Like he just put out a tweet. So I didn't expect anything. And I just messaged him. And this was even before Twitter had like a blue tick thing or anything. And I'm a very small account on Twitter, maybe like 10,000 followers back then. I didn't expect anything. I just messaged. And within a few hours, he said, yes, of course. Like, let's do it. And where do you want to meet? And we set it up. And then I met him again with another friend of mine. Super chill. We just went to like one of the lakes and we just had a small picnic and we were talking about everything, and I could just get advice, ask a lot of questions, things that you don't expect to get so much time or, you know, advice or suggestions or recommendations or have such great conversation, such focused and involved conversation with people who are so busy. So nobody is flaunting that way. Nobody's being like, I know people say Dubai is a city with no culture, it's so fake, etc. It's not. And if you feel that, you're just with the wrong people. And that's true for any place. That's true for any city in the world. You're just hanging out with the wrong people then. And it's more of a question of why are you attracting such people? Right. So it's more of that. So yeah, I don't think like everyone has to move to Dubai, but I think Dubai is one of the places you should probably visit at least once. Spend some time. You've been there. You've also seen how
land of
fun
opportunities.
it is. Exactly. So yeah, I think it's a good place
Right.
to just visit.
For those who are still watching till this point, what should be their mindset going on and executing?
I was thinking about this for the last few days that I think we have everyone talking about taking action. Be obsessed with taking action. Be obsessed with putting in the work. But I was just thinking that in my early stages of my career, I was not really obsessed with the inputs. I was really obsessed with the outcomes. I was so obsessed with making money, right? I was so obsessed with getting any opportunity that came my way. And that's why I did so well, because I was just like, I was taking sales calls in the middle of the night. I was working till 4 a.m. after my university. I was doing everything in college. I was a part of so many events. I was part of like startup pitches. I won funding for my startup. I was really involved. And along with that, I was coming home and I was working like until the middle of the night. I was working between my classes, taking sales
Every
calls
waking
in
hour, you're
college.
just working.
Every waking hour. And I was just trying to be like, okay, what can I do? Like, I was busy all the time. And I think that mindset is really helpful. Hustle or whatever you want to call it. It really doesn't matter what you want to call it. But eventually what works is not even like how much input you put in. It's not the number of hours. It's just you trying to figure out what's clicking, what's working for you, what is your point of leverage. And that only comes with a certain amount of crazy obsession with it. Crazy. So I think that is a good approach to have. It's not just about actions, and it's not, of course, not about beating yourself up about not getting a certain outcome, because you can't control it. But you're basically doing your best from all different angles, and you're just trying to figure out what works best for you.
Obsession is the word.
Obsession is the word.
Epic. Thank you so much,
Epic.
Shreya, for taking out the time. I think we went really deep. Everything from why content writing to talking about automations and the real nitty-gritties of the whole framework. Thank you so much taking out the time. Guys, if you are still watching, thank you so much. Share this video with your friends and go out there, execute. Wish you all the best for 2024. If you have anything to add to that.
This is the third video we're doing.
Yes,
So
this is the third one.
video. So
But
yeah.
I think the most in-depth one that we've done.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the first like in-studio video.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Properly or
yeah. And I hope everyone likes it.
Yeah.
And all the best.
Amazing. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section. You can check out her socials in the description as well. And we'll see you in another podcast. Bye-bye.